And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. We're approaching the bottom of the hour here. It's a good place to reset about where we are in this very scary, scary night for Israelis up and down the country from the north to the south. And the kind of silver lining in all of this is that the IDF says it has intercepted, with the help of the United States, a majority of the projectiles that it faced incoming from Iran. Those are drones, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles as well here. So let's get a reset. Let's rely, like we have so much so, from Fox News Foreign Affairs correspondent Trey Yingst in Israel with some great reporting. He just filed this report. Let's watch.
Israel putting its forces on high alert Saturday night, shutting down its airspace as Iran launched dozens of drones and missiles toward the country. The attack retaliation for a strike on Iran's consulate earlier this month that killed 2 top Iranian generals. Iran blames Israel for that strike, though the Israelis haven't taken responsibility. Rumors of war have been swirling in the intelligence community ever since, Israel readying its defenses in response, trying to shoot down the drones before they reach Israeli airspace. Israel also directing residents in several areas to stay near bomb shelters.
This is a severe and dangerous escalation. Our defensive and offensive capabilities are at the highest level of readiness.
A post on X by the Iranian government through their permanent mission to the UN said the attack can be, quote, deemed concluded, and warned the U.S. against getting involved. Though U.S. military officials tell Fox they have already shot down at least 1 Iranian drone. President Biden returning to Washington Saturday night, convening a meeting of the National Security Council. The White House maintaining its commitment to Israel is ironclad, saying in a statement, the United States will stand with the people of Israel and support their defense against these threats from Iran. Before this, Iran had only targeted Israel through proxy forces and avoided direct attacks. Tonight's event fueling fears about the possibility of a broader regional war. In Tel Aviv, Trey Yingst, Fox News.
Trey, thanks so much. In the meantime, you saw that photo in Trey's report. I think it's worth showing you yet again. That is a meeting there in the Situation Room. President Biden says this: I just met with my national security team for an update on Iran's attacks against Israel. Our commitment to Israel's security against threats from Iran and its proxies is ironclad. And if we maybe could take the photo full, I just want to point out who's in the room. You see there CIA Director Bill Burns. You see there Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines. You also see Secretary of State Antony Blinken. And on the other side of the table, next to President Biden, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. Next to him, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General C.Q. Brown, as well there. So that is the national security team in full focus in the Situation Room, gaming out some of these scenarios as well. We're going to continue to game out some of these scenarios, but I think it is safe to say from the reporting that the barrage by Iran is largely over. And so I think that is significant. It's worth noting. We're going to be reiterating that and repeating that as well alongside our guest, Foundation for Defense of Democracy's expert and our friend Hussein Abdul. Hussein, he joins me. Hussein, thanks for being with us here on such short notice, but we know you study this region of the world so well. You're very knowledgeable about this. And that's the news at this now bottom of the hour, that it is over. The barrage is done. Are you hearing that too?
Well, it looks like it. And judging by history, the time when Iran claimed that it responded to America taking out Qasem Soleimani, they had a similar pattern. They fired the missiles, and at the same time, their foreign minister at the time, Javad Zarif, said that it was over. So I see a repeat now coming through the UN. So to my mind, this looks to be over so far now. I think we'll probably be waiting to see what Israel's response would be, but that'll be a different story altogether.
You know, Hussein, just yesterday we heard from President Biden when asked about Iran's plans to do this with a one-word answer in reply. He said simply, don't. Clearly, Iran did not heed that message. Was that a failure of deterrence on the Biden White House's part here, or was Iran going to go about this anyway? Remember, all throughout last week, U.S. officials have been working through back channels to get to Iran to tell them to stop. They didn't heed those warnings. Were they futile in hindsight, do you think?
Well, I think now is the chance for this administration to prove itself, to show what it means when it says don't, and to show that it is consistent in its message and prove that it really stands with Israel, which we heard tonight and which we've been hearing over the past few days. So Iran clearly didn't listen to Washington, even though we're told that there was a lot of back channel conversation between the two sides. Now it's incumbent on this administration to show us what it means. I mean, what would be the consequences when Iran doesn't listen to what America says, and when Iran tries to push the whole region to the brink of full-scale war, just across the region, not like over small areas, from Iran to Israel, probably with other players involved, north and south, east and west.
What about the U.S. role in all of this? Obviously, we were instrumental in helping Israel intercept a majority of these drones. Will we be involved at all? Will we play a role in Israel's retaliation, do you think?
I think there's a lot of room for the United States to be involved in retaliation without actually having our military getting its hands dirty or involved in the war. There's a lot of support, logistics, technology, air refueling, you name it. There's a lot of tools and facilities and resources that we can make available to our Israeli allies without actually having the U.S. military getting involved. Now, I think this is the reason why Iran said out loud that we are going to war, or we are going to strike Israel, but America is not part of this, and America better stay out of this. So the Iranians realize that if they strike, the U.S. will support one way or another. I think that's something that scares them to an extent. They understand the amount of our resources. So we'll see whether, what kind of support we offer Israel as they prepare their response.
Will the Biden-Bibi relationship recover after this? Do you think this will become another rallying point for Israelis behind Bibi Netanyahu?
Well, I think it's in the best interest of both sides to put politics on the side and stick to policy, and to focus on what's at hand, the Iranian danger to the Jewish state. And I think as long as we're thinking clearly, there's no need to think who's in charge in Washington or who's in charge in Jerusalem. We're two allied nations, regardless of who's the ruler here or there. Yeah. So I think if this kind of thinking persists, I think things will go smooth. Okay. But there's a fear that we might always go back to politics. Each side will try to cater to its own domestic audience, and I think I don't see it happening now, thankfully. But if we go back, that's not something that I'd want to see, at least.
I want to put up this tweet. Alon Levy, the government spokesperson there for Israel, with this photo, Hussein. Prime Minister Netanyahu is on the phone with President Biden right now after the late-night War Cabinet and Security Cabinet meetings there. So kind of each side putting out their respective photos and media about some of these conversations and phone calls that have taken place. We would be remiss, Hussein, if we didn't bring up the Israel-Hamas war, the war that is currently ongoing in Gaza. How is this related to that? Is this so indirect and tangential, or is it directly related to what's happening in Gaza? Help us make those connections, if there are any.
What we know is that what we see tonight started because Iran planned October 7. Israel took out the RGC Iranian general, General Zahedi, who was in Damascus meeting with 6 other generals. This is the guy who Hamas eulogized by saying that, by thanking him, by remembering him as the guy who helped plan the October 7 massacre. So we know that Israel went after him for his role on October 7, and this is why we're here now. So now that the war in Gaza has a bit receded to the background, with Israel making so much gains except for Rafah, I think the focus has turned on the, what all of us call the head of the octopus. Now, we're not dealing with the arms anymore. Israel is not dealing with the arms, whether it's Hamas or Hezbollah. Now the focus is on Iran itself. And we see the war now happening between Iran and Israel with no proxies in between them.
Okay, what about the Rafah operation? Is that completely off the table? Is that completely sidelined after tonight, or will Israel go full forward with it?
I don't think this is off the table, and I think that Israel is lower the intensity of the war in Gaza, because clearly now Hamas doesn't have the ability to hurt Israel, the Israeli population, or the Israeli economy anymore. But this does not mean that the Hamas problem has disappeared, and this does not mean that what we see in Gaza right now is sustainable for either side on the long term. So I think Israel can put the Gaza war on a shelf for now to deal with Iran, and I think this is in the best interest of Israel. Israel now will focus on Iran, and after that, I think if Iran gets hit, if Iran weakens to an extent, whether politically or on a military level, I think we will see Hamas act and behave differently. Hamas acts and behave in such a way because they think that they have support from a powerful party, which is in Tehran. I think if things change in Iran itself, maybe that will reflect on Hamas and on Rafah in the future.
Okay, yeah, I want to put that tweet up again from Alon Levy with the photo of Bibi there talking on the phone with Biden. We're getting some more reporting on this phone call, Hussein. According to Jackie Heinrich at the White House, an administration official says the call has ended and it lasted around 25 minutes. Before we let you go, Hussein, I mean, what do you think was said on the phone call?
Well, to my mind, 25 minutes is a long phone call. It's comprehensive. It's, it doesn't look like, they just exchanged the pleasantries or not between the two sides. So they must have talked about things in depth. I think probably Bibi Netanyahu offered his assessment, offered his next plan, and heard what President Biden had to say. I wouldn't say that there's a lot of disagreement, at least judging by the public statements of both sides. I think he more or less probably got the U.S. blessing for whatever Israel plans to do next vis-a-vis Iran.
All right. Abdul Hussein with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thank you for making time for us tonight. Can't thank you enough, and we'll talk soon.